get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, I bless the line.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the waters, I see it in our daughters. They could be bridges that know no borders. For so long, them folks tried to...
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. All you got to do is type in Dr. Nii-Q, DrNiiQ, and I pop right on up, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, subscribe. Did I mention subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast? That way you'll never, ever miss an episode. This is a big day here on A More Perfect Union for our big interview with Maryland Governor Wes Moore. Had a chance to catch up with him at the Essence Festival, especially, but in particular, caught up with him at the Global Black Economic Forum, where he had a lot to say about a wide range of issues, and we're going to share that interview with you in short order. But first things first, it's time for our national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, USA Today is reporting that on the Texas county where campers died, well, guess what? They were denied money to boost their warning system. Nearly a decade before, catastrophic flooding in South Texas killed at least 95 people, including 27 girls and counselors from a beloved summer camp. The state's Division of Emergency Management denied request for the county where the camp is held for $1 million grant to improve its flood warning system. Summer camps were top of mind during county leaders' discussion of the project. That's according to meeting minutes. Then County Commissioner Tom Mosser envisioned designating point people at each camp who would monitor a website and alert camp counselors and attendees if evacuations were needed. The Division of Emergency Management did not answer requests from the press specific to questions about why the county's applications were rejected, but you better believe that families are going to demand answers, that people across this country are going to demand answers. And so we're going to keep our eye on this for the answers that everyone deserves. In other news, NBC News is reporting that on the Trump-Netanyahu meeting, how it revives this bitterly opposed plan to relocate Palestinians. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu kept alive the idea of relocating people from the shattered Gaza Strip. That was just yesterday, despite widespread condemnation from close allies, the United Nations and human rights groups, as well as the Palestinians themselves. Trump said at his meeting on Monday with Netanyahu at the White House that there was, quote, great cooperation from Israel's neighbors to take in Palestinians, while Netanyahu said they were, quotes, getting close to finding several countries willing to do so. Neither provided details of the idea, which Arab nations like Jordan and Egypt have rejected and condemned as forced displacement, which is illegal under international law. At a Netanyahu visit to the White House in February, Trump made a surprise announcement that he wanted the United States to take ownership of the Gaza Strip and develop it into, quotes, the Riviera of the Middle East, before later walking back those plans, citing a lack of regional support. Asked about his progress on this front on Monday, he threw the question to Netanyahu, sitting across from him. Netanyahu said, quotes, it's called free choice, you know? If people want to stay, they can stay, but if they want to leave, they should be able to leave. He went on to say it shouldn't be a prison. It should be an open place and give people a free choice. Moving along, TSA tests security lines, allowing passengers to keep their shoes on. Look, y'all know how much I travel back and forth between DC, LA, and everywhere in between. In fact, I'm getting ready to get on a flight tonight. And with TSA pre-check, I don't have to take off my shoes, but it looks like that's not going to be limited to TSA pre-check any longer. The Washington Post is reporting that travelers passing through airport security checkpoints, again, will no longer have to remove their shoes, reversing a rule that's been in effect since 2006. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem officially announced the end of the shoes-off travel policy at a news conference today at the Reagan National Airport. But some airports had been experimenting with these new security protocols for days. Secretary Noem said advances in security technology have allowed the Transportation Security Administration to make the change while keeping travelers safe. So you get to keep your shoes on. I don't know about you, but I always wonder, when's the last time they mopped this floor? Is it just me? It can't just be me. I seriously wonder that. When's the last time they mopped this floor? Because, look, I travel early in the morning, late at night, during the day. I don't ever see anybody with a mop mopping up that area in front of the security system, the security checkpoint. So if y'all see it, post it on social media and tag me, because I haven't seen it yet. That's all I'm saying. Moving along, the Supreme Court clears the way for mass firings at federal agencies. This is a big deal, and I'm sure this is rocking people, not just in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, but this is rocking folks across the country, because federal workers, newsflash, aren't just in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. In fact, that makes up the smallest portion of federal workers. Most federal workers are spread out across the country. But they may not be employed much longer. The New York Times is reporting that the Trump administration can move forward with plans to slash the federal workforce and dismantle federal agencies. The Supreme Court announced this just today. The decision could result in job losses for tens of thousands of employees at agencies, including the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the Department of State, and the Department of the Treasury. The order, which lifted a lower court's ruling that had blocked mass layoffs, it was unsigned, and it didn't include a vote count. Don't you think something that's that serious, shouldn't that be signed? Shouldn't we know of a vote count on that, particularly at the Supreme Court level? You know, this is typical in such emergency applications, and Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote about this in a public dissent. The case represents a key test of the extent of President Trump's power to reorganize the government without input from Congress. The justice's order is technically only temporary, guiding how the administration can proceed while the challenge to President Trump's plan continues. But in practice, it means that he's free to pursue his restructuring plans, even if judges later determine that they exceed presidential power. This is America. When we come forward, we are just moments away from sharing our very special sit-down interview with Maryland Governor Westmore. And we'll also be talking to Jonathan Collins, who is the assistant professor of political science at Columbia University. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time. Whenever news breaks, while we're on the air, it's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580. And we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. And I thank you, thank you.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me! National News, The Consequence. Informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and he is Dr. Jonathan Collins, assistant professor of political science at Columbia University, and frequent political contributor here on A More Perfect Union. Welcome, Dr. Collins.
Dr. Quartey, great to see you again. Glad to be back.
It's good to see you. And where are the mops? People want to know.
QTNA, Dr. Q, questions that need answers. Where are the mops?
I'm just saying. I mean, can you imagine? So now, people don't have to slip off their shoes anymore going through TSA. I guess it's the little victories in life, no?
Yeah, little victories, I guess. But to your point, I try not to pay too much attention to people's feet, but there's some people, especially in the summertime, who navigate TSA, especially the pre-check line, that, sanitation isn't necessarily their strength. I'll put it that way.
That's right. That's what people walk around barefoot in the TSA. Okay, all right.
Yeah, keep the shoes on. Keep the shoes on.
Keep their shoes on. Keep their shoes on. Well, you know, let's transition a little bit to the U.S. Supreme Court with this sort of doozy of a decision coming off of the emergency docket. We've seen the emergency docket really used as a workaround for the Trump administration. Other administrations have used it rarely, but the Trump administration really seems to be abusing the emergency docket, and they're having some success doing it. The Supreme Court saying that they can move forward with mass firings at federal agencies. What's your reaction to this?
Well, it's becoming a judicial war in this country. And so usually when we see the courts weigh in on these things, we're looking at the Supreme Court taking a stance on an issue that bubbles up from the lower courts. And the Supreme Court is usually there to take an old saying from the WWE, lay the smackdown on any potential legal issue that is rising to the top. But what we're seeing now with this emergency reaction, you can see it as a direct response to the preliminary injunction that federal judges were implementing at the federal courts across different circuits within the U.S. to try to prevent Trump from engaging in illegal behavior. And so it's becoming the immovable force, unstoppable object. We had these preliminary injunctions in place to try to keep Trump essentially from breaking the law. So specifically to this matter, Trump just unilaterally fired thousands and thousands of federal employees. These people have contracts. You can't just fire people all willy-nilly. And federal contracts at that, right? And so by Trump not honoring the sanctity of this, he essentially broke the law. Well, there's a preliminary injunction in place initiated by one federal court judge that spread across the entire legal sphere to block all of those firings and additional illegal acts that Trump has engaged in. Well, not only did the Supreme Court come back and essentially strike that down, now they're using this emergency response to allow Trump to get away with additional illegal behavior. And so, you struck down a dam and then you actually increase the water flow that's essentially drowning out now thousands, if not millions of Americans.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And speaking of emergency response and emergency management, Republicans have been towing Trump's line even in the aftermath of these deadly Texas floods. Look, it seems to me if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it just might be a duck. Is the president playing politics when it comes to these emergency declarations? We've seen him declare an emergency declaration in Texas, but we've seen him, reluctant to do so in other states, and slow to do so, certainly in states like California.
Well, absolutely. To your point, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck. And Trump's playing politics with these issues is not limited to the emergency response. This is just the most recent iteration. Honestly, it's probably not even the most recent iteration, because what we're also seeing is with Trump's immigration enforcement, he's particularly punishing his political adversaries. Also, if you look at the intersection between Trump and the immigration enforcement, and also the reduction in K through 12 education spending. I'm sure you saw the headline where I think it's almost $7 billion of the congressional budget for education is being withheld. Well, a sizable chunk of that money supports funding that goes towards helping students who speak English as a second language and programs that are specifically designed to support immigrant students or kids from immigrant households. The same thing is happening here with the emergency response, where if Trump sees you as a political ally, he comes in and there's empathy for your situation. And not only empathy, but there's federal support behind it. we've seen in the past, though, when Trump isn't politically aligned with you, his emergency response is at best slow. I know we all remember Puerto Rico, those embarrassing videos of him like throwing toilet paper into the crowd. And
I mean, I still feel like I have PTSD from seeing anybody toss paper towels at folks after seeing those images of President Trump toss paper towels to folks out in the crowd in Puerto Rico.
And it took him, I think, days, if not weeks, if I remember correctly, to even declare what was happening in Puerto Rico as an emergency that warranted federal action. And so it got to the point where thousands of people had suffered, and it required an even larger amount of federal intervention to be able to get things in order. We ended up spending significantly more money to aid the Puerto Rico recovery than we had to had he acted, promptly on time. But then, especially if you look at the kind of response that we've seen from the Trump administration in Texas, when there's sort of political overlap. But he's playing politics essentially with our natural disasters, and that's a scary situation to be in.
But he's not the only one playing politics. We know that there are a number of Republicans, again, that are towing the Trump line, really lavishing the president with praise for providing federal assistance in Texas, while studiously avoiding questions around the effect of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and the threats to dismantle the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Is this? Are they going to be able to maintain this? Is this a tenable position for Republicans? I mean, at some point, are folks in Texas and our fellow Americans across the country, are they going to say, well, wait a minute, all these mass firings, all the dismantling of infrastructure and experts in our federal government may not be serving us well when it comes to natural disasters and federal emergencies.
Yeah, it's, I hate to use the phrase, but chickens are coming home to roost a little bit in this situation, because you can't completely gut the sort of federal human capital infrastructure and then expect there to be significant response in these times of crisis from federal workers. The federal workers who essentially do those jobs are no longer in place. And the problem too with the Trump administration is that not only is he not accepting blame for the situation and not making the connection between these DOGE-esque cuts to the federal workforce and the federal government's inability to respond here in Texas, because we're talking about over 100 lives, lost here, and we're talking about
You are listening to
we're talking about over 100 lives lost here, and we're talking about more than a couple of hundred of lives who are in danger, in jeopardy here. So this is a very serious and deadly disaster. One of the deadliest disasters I think we've seen in the last decade plus. And so somebody's at blame here. If it's not the loss of federal workers, if it's not the lack of expediency of the Trump administration's emergency response, if it's not Greg Abbott's sort of administration in the state of Texas, who's at fault here? It can't be the Democrats. They don't control the state. They don't control the House. They don't control the Senate. They don't control the presidency. They don't control the Supreme Court. So tell me who's at fault if it's not the Trump administration here.
You're right. And it's also worth noting that President Trump himself has struck a similar tone of just sort of avoid and deflect, deflecting questions about whether he's still planning to phase out FEMA. He said that he does not plan to rehire any of the federal meteorologists who were fired this year as a part of the widespread government spending cuts. And the president told reporters just this past Sunday that the, quote, water situation, that's all that all is, and that was really the Biden setup. He said, but I wouldn't blame Biden for it either. I would just say this is a 100-year catastrophe. And so deflect. I'm not so sure how long that position is going to hold up. And I'm also not sure whether or not folks are going to wake up and say, wait a minute, we need a robust federal emergency management agency, that any cuts, any mass firings that touch that agency, will inevitably touch a community near us. Yes, when we come forward, we're switching gears. A lot of folks have been anticipating our interview with Maryland Governor Wes Moore. He talked about a lot of issues, including the response to the floods in Texas, among so many other things. You don't want to miss this. When we come forward, our special conversation with Maryland Governor Wes Moore. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams says he will not drop out of the mayoral race despite calls to unite against frontrunner Zohran Mamdani.
He spent $25 or $30 million. He put his message out. Voters heard it. He lost by 12 percentage points.
Former Governor Patterson says Adams and Cuomo are splitting the vote. Adams says Cuomo should drop out, but polls show Cuomo leading him. Washington, D.C. has a new youth curfew. Black Mayor Muriel Bowser signed emergency legislation setting an 11 p.m. summer curfew with some zones able to start at 8 p.m. She says it's to keep young people safe and looks forward to working with the D.C. Council on it. And Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries plans to meet New York City mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani next week to discuss his vision. Mamdani, who ran on lowering living costs, has been congratulated but not endorsed by Jeffries and Senator Schumer. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Cascade on the 5 northbound. This is coming up on Hasley Canyon Road. The 2 right lanes remain off limits due to a brush fire, and traffic is a big mess. We're seeing about a 6-mile backup getting away from Lyons Avenue. Now, we're also heading out to the drive in Norwalk with a wreck on the 605 northbound before the 105. They're clearing it out of the carpool and the left lane, but that drive is tough away from the 91 freeway. And beyond the wreck, you still have some heavy traffic towards Whittier Boulevard. It's also slow moving in Anaheim, the eastbound side of the 91, leaving Kramer-Glassell. Delays ahead to Green River.
Rapid radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. Business owners can now keep in touch with up to 200 staff members at one time. Go to rapidradios.com now for up to 60% off and free shipping.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The name Pettis Norman might not be familiar to you, but he was a pioneer in the National Football League on and off the field. Norman was the first African-American tight end to play for the Dallas Cowboys. Norman passed away Tuesday morning. He was 86. Norman played 9 seasons with the Cowboys after he was drafted in 1962 out of Johnson C. Smith University and HBCU in Charlotte, North Carolina. Pettis played 3 seasons with the San Diego Chargers before retiring in 1973. When Norman was with the Cowboys, he convinced legendary coach Tom Landry to end his segregation policy. Landry did not allow black and white players to share hotel rooms on the road. After retiring, Norman became a prominent civil rights advocate in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. One of Norman's legacies is the Dallas Together Forum, an initiative he created to support businesses owned by women and minorities. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Here come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, We don't back down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least liked to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfiresupport@QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and here for a one-on-one interview with Governor Wes Moore, the only sitting black governor in the United States. Governor Moore, thank you so much for being with us.
Mana, Doc, great to be with you.
Yes.
Always, man.
Yes. Well, first things first, tell us, why are you in New Orleans? Why was it You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and we are really excited to share with you our interview
We have to make sure that everybody's
with Maryland Governor Wes.
in that conversation. So being
We are experiencing a little bit of a transmission issue, but no worries. We still have Jonathan Collins with us. Jonathan Collins, the assistant professor of political science at Columbia University, is with us. We're going to get that sorted out in short order, but Jonathan, let's talk about Wes Moore, the only sitting black governor in the United States. Talk to us about the great hope there is that Wes Moore will use the power of his office, the visibility of his office, in the most consequential way possible. Talk to us about the promise of Wes Moore being the only sitting black governor in the United States.
There's a significant amount of opportunity for Wes Moore to really change the conversation here. I don't think we talk about him enough. He's, I think, arguably one of the most consequential political figures of our moment. This is the thing about Wes Moore. If this were, like, let's say the year 2000, or if this was just, let's just say pre-Obama, we would be over the moon talking about him. He's like, if you could create a black politician in a lab, you'd probably get Wes Moore. You get the military experience, but then the intellect, you get the ability to display the amount of charisma that's needed to win statewide office. You can make an argument that becoming the governor of a state is as a black politician is just as hard, if not harder, than becoming the president. I mean, there's the electoral college here that does a lot of work for you when it comes to a presidential election. The hardest part for a black candidate is to sort of make it through as a top nominee. That was the sort of Jesse Jackson problem. Wes Moore, being able to galvanize support statewide in Maryland, and then reach the seat in Annapolis. This speaks volumes. We haven't seen this kind of leadership at the state level since Deval Patrick in Massachusetts. And Massachusetts is a different state. It's known for having the highest educated population of any state in the U.S., and more educated populations tend to be more open to Black candidates. And so, what Wes Moore is able to do here, the multiracial coalition that he's put together in Maryland, and his ability to tap into all different sort of like ideological pockets of voters in the state is remarkable. And then what he's doing as a leader is just as remarkable. We just don't talk about it enough. I mean, John Conyers would sort of write and offer his sort of annual reparations bill in Congress that would just essentially die in committee. But he was doing this symbolically because he didn't want the conversation on reparations to die. Well, then the question has always been, when will Black political officials actually take up reparations in a serious way? And Wes Moore is on the cusp of doing something like that, of saying, no, we're not just going to put together a committee to discuss reparations. He's actually trying to put together an actionable plan. Now, will that plan actually sort of come into fruition is the sort of open question that makes me really excited about this interview. But I'm telling you, there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to Wes Moore. I'm a big fan. Even just seeing you two together in the interview, the anticipation is building. It makes me want to cut my hair. Y'all are on screen looking Black and beautiful and bald, and I'm excited.
We're bringing bald back, bald and shiny.
Yeah.
We're bringing it back. No, I mean, I've got to say it was really one of the more special interviews. I have a chance to talk to folks, inside and outside of elected office, people who are shaping the culture, grassroots organizers. And I think, part of the magic of this show is being able to learn how folks are doing their part to build a more perfect union, what their vision is for building a more perfect union. And, for some people, they have a bigger stage than other folks.
Can I ask you a question? I know this is your show, but can I ask you a question?
Of course you can.
What's he like behind the scenes?
What's he like behind the scenes? I think he is probably one of the most empathetic elected officials I have ever interviewed. Who he is, how he shows up off camera, it lines up with how he shows up on camera.
Oh, really?
And I also recognize that, look, every elected official has staff. And some staff people are easier to deal with than other people. His staff people were a delight to work with. And I really admire the way they work with each other, because sometimes, staff people be competing with each other. And we're supposed to act like we don't see that. But we do see that. I certainly see that. And what I saw interacting with the governor's staff is that they work very well together. And he really sees himself as a public servant. And as a result, I think his staff operates the same way. And he is anxious to get out and talk to people. He is a people person. Sometimes, when you encounter someone who is a charismatic leader, it begs the question, who are they off camera? Who are they off stage? Who are they, when, there's nothing that you can necessarily offer them to their benefit, right? And so this will go down as probably one of the most memorable interviews I've conducted thus far this year, because not just because of his style or his swag, but it's the substance, it's the connection to community, it's his conviction. He really believes that he was sort of called to serve, and it just so happens to look like being governor of Maryland.
I got a follow-up if we have time.
Please, go ahead.
Because you're uniquely positioned to answer this question, right? And so you had this extensive sit down with Westmore, and you're very thoughtful about what he means to our politics and really to our moment. You've also written a book about a very high profile Black political official as well, who you've also spent extensive time with. And I'm curious of like what similarities do you see between one Kamala Harris and one Wes Moore?
That's a very good question. It's a very good question. I see that they are both folks who haven't forgotten where they come from. What folks will hear in the interview that we look forward to playing for you, what folks will hear is the governor, remind folks of a time where, he had handcuffs around his wrist, as a young kid that was trying to find his way. You're going to hear him talk about how being a part of an immigrant family, how that informs how he shows up for other immigrant families as governor of Maryland. This idea of not leaving anyone behind, I think that aligns nicely with former Vice President Harris's body of work, right? There's something about the way that she works. It's something about her commitment to ensuring that the community is at the table, right? Some elected officials are like, okay, community's nice, stay over there, right? And there are other folks that are really comfortable being in conversation, with folks on the front lines, right? And so these are folks who've had two very different paths. Obviously, former Vice President Harris has been in elected office much longer than Governor Moore. This is his first elected office. But make no mistake about it, their love for Black people, their love for America, is abundantly clear. And I think they both represent sort of the rich tapestry of the African diaspora, right? Black folks come from different places and have different experiences. We are not a monolith. And while both of them share Jamaican ancestry, they both, grew up, thousands of miles apart, and are of different generations. But the conviction around not leaving people behind, that seems to be something that ties the two together.
Wow, that was beautifully said. I mean, you kind of can look at them and kind of see a lot of the similarities just in terms of just how they appeal to a broader public, and especially just the authenticity that comes out. I think I got the chance to see, Kamala Harris in a smaller, intimate setting. Actually, I think it was your invitation. I think, remember there was the event at the Muhammad Ali House in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was my first time seeing Vice President Harris in person. And it was like seeing an auntie. Like, she was just so down to earth and so endearing. And she talked about policy in such a sensible and applied and approachable way. And you could tell that, like, she was drawn to lead from a place of empathy, and because she really wanted to see people better off in a world that, and especially in a country and a society that presents so many challenges to folks who look like us. And I get that same feeling when Governor Wes Moore speaks, that he just really wants lives to be better.
Yeah,
as a result of the work that he does.
Yeah, and he's aware that he's not going to be in office forever, right? And so my sense is that he wants to make every day in office count, and he wants to be a consequential governor. It's not just about the trappings of the office, but it's about being a consequential governor. It's about meeting the moment. I think he thinks a lot about that. I know he thinks a lot about that. In the interview, you'll hear his response to the question around what is it like being the only sitting Black governor in the United States, after, Trump's return to the White House. What is that like? There aren't many people that have that experience, that have that vantage point in connection to Washington.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're entering this moment where it feels like we want our politicians to be celebrities. We've been hearing the conversation about who's going to be the Democratic nominee for the 2028 presidential election. Is it going to be Stephen A. Smith, The Rock? It's our politics have moved into this realm of celebrity, in part, I think, because Trump is a celebrity president, and I'm hoping that the left resists that temptation of feeling like the presidency is now about celebrity, and remembering that the presidency is about people who really care about using the office to improve the lives of Americans.
That's right. When we come forward, we are still planning on sharing with you our interview with Governor Wes Moore. We want to make sure that we share it with you without any interruption, because it is just that good. And we're going to be sticking with Jonathan Collins as we do a little show and tell. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? You may be able to reduce your risk by managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure, being physically active, eating healthy, and exercising your mind. To learn more about AD, the importance of early diagnosis and intervention, and a potential treatment option, visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. I do not consider myself a fan of Sean Puffy, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy Love, Brother Love Combs. But one doesn't have to be a fan to acknowledge a simple truth about his recent jury trial. I think the primary reason he was acquitted of those sex trafficking and RICO charges is because he was overcharged in the first place. Mine is not to opine on his guilt or innocence on any of the charges the feds brought against him. But I predicted months ago that he would beat the most serious charges because, as usual, prosecutors have a really bad habit of overcharging black men. Dave Chappelle said it best. Puffy is in a RICO case all by himself, man. Hilarious and arresting at the same time. When prosecutors put a target on the backs of black men, they throw everything at them just to see what sticks. And too often, just like in the Puffy case at the very end, they move to dismiss some of the charges and then double down on the ones they think they can win. It's racist and it's wrong, and somebody ought to say so. I think I just did. Not for the benefit of Puffy, but on behalf of all the other black men who have been and sadly will be woefully overcharged in the future. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
Listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I really enjoyed this hour with Dr. Jonathan Collins. We're going to ask him to stick around for a little bit because we want to make sure that we get this right. We have this interview with Governor Wes Moore, and we want to make sure that it is that you hear and experience the interview as intended. And so I know the anticipation is building. I've been looking forward to sharing this with you all day. And this is why we have a 2-hour show, right? It's because we have time to stretch out and make sure that we get it right. And so, I've got to ask you in our remaining minutes this hour, Dr. Collins, you are a Morehouse man. And one of the initiatives that the governor is championing is related to Black men and boys, boys and men of color, and mental health. He understands that, health is from the neck up and neck down. Talk to us, as a Morehouse man in terms of how important it is that Governor Moore is using his bully pulpit to call attention to support and resources, particularly for Black men when it comes to mental health. When you
there we go. It's incredibly important because I think that we lose sight of the fact that there is so much work to be done with empowering boys and men of color, especially Black boys and Black men. A part of it is because we've seen these other initiatives. You know, you think about the My Brother's Keeper initiative started by former President Obama, which wasn't explicitly about Black men and Black boys, but that ultimately became the primary focus. But I'll say a quick thing on why it's so important is because we lose sight of the fact that as Black men, we are constantly inundated in subliminal and subconscious messaging that tell us that we're inferior, right? Every time that we walk the streets, every time that we turn on a television, every time that we open our phones and look on social media, we are seeing images of ourselves that support the idea that we are unintelligent, that we are violent, that we are threatening, that we are, sexually promiscuous, and that we don't deserve humanity and dignity, that we are fodder for the court system, that we are meant for mass incarceration, and that success is not something that should be a part of our futures. And so, those projects that work against us, they haven't gone anywhere. They haven't stopped. And so the only way to counteract that is to do the kind of work that Governor Moore is proposing, to have specific programs where it's designed around mentoring and understanding the mental health component of just navigating day-to-day life as a Black man. And so I'm incredibly glad that he's doing, the work that he's doing. And so I hope that it continues.
I sure hope that it continues. Also, this is an issue that is very important to me and to you and to so many folks out there. When we come forward, we're going to get this right. We're going to share with you this really special interview with Maryland Governor Wes Moore. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams says he will not drop out of the mayoral race despite calls to unite against frontrunners Ram Mamdani.
He spent $25 or $30 million. He put his message out. Voters heard it. He lost by 12 percentage points.
Former Governor Patterson says Adams and Cuomo are splitting the vote. Adams says Cuomo should